magic happen. Okay, so what we're going to be working on today is finishing up Chapter 3. It says moving on to Chapter 4, but we're not going to actually do anything from Chapter 4. So today will be the end of 3 and the beginning of 5, which I think will make you happy. Chapter 4 is kind of a pain. So in continuing what we were talking about the last time that we met, we had talked about cell organelles and how they make up all the parts of the cell, because all the parts of the cell essentially function as a living thing. So they need to do all of these same functions that every other place in your body has to do as well, and in every other living thing. So one of the cell organelles is the lysosome, and basically this is round and membrane enclosed. And just like we've been talking about in lab this week with enzymes, it's got all kinds of digestive enzymes inside of it that basically allow it to function as a garbage disposal. So the thing that takes all of the wastes out of your cells and then gets them out of the cell is the organelle called the lysosome. So that's what it actually looks like. It can digest all sorts of different things, different proteins, carbohydrates, all kinds of great stuff. So then we move on to the endomembrane system, and I had started talking about this before we took our test, but this was kind of where the lowest percentage of correct answers were, so I thought I would go over it again. The endomembrane system is something that surrounds the nucleus of the cell. If you look here and here, you can see the nucleus, and it's got the rough endoplasmic reticulum is packed right up next to it. Basically, looks like a stack of pancakes. Then you have your smooth endoplasmic reticulum and your Golgi apparatus. And basically, these are the way that proteins are moved around in the cell. The proteins have to be able to get from the inner parts of the cell out to be packaged and sent to where they need to go to do the things that they do. So first, the one that we're looking at right here is the rough endoplasmic reticulum. And the way that you can tell that is because it's got all these little black dots attached to it. And each one of those little dots is a ribosome. And ribosomes are where you build all of your proteins. And in this case, it's also helping to send toxins out of the cell so that it doesn't poison the cell. So the rough endoplasmic reticulum got its name, kind of a funny name. Sometimes you see it abbreviated as the rough ER, the rough endoplasmic reticulum. The rough ER is called that because it's got the ribosomes that are attached, and it modifies these proteins in order to ship them to other locations in the endomembrane system. So the way that I always remember this is that I think they look like stacks of pancakes with flies on them. And so basically your protein-making machine. Then the thing that is immediately outside of the rough endoplasmic reticulum is the smooth endoplasmic reticulum. So here we see our smooth endoplasmic reticulum, and here's the rough that has all of the ribosomes inside. So the function of the smooth endoplasmic reticulum is that it synthesizes lipids. So it works with fats, the phospholipids, the fatty acids, and it helps to detoxify molecules like alcohol, drugs, and metabolic waste products. So if you were going to say, where in the cell would you have the most of these, or what kind of cells would have the most of these, the answer is the liver cells. They're packed with huge amounts of smooth endoplasmic reticulum because your liver, some of you may feel bad for your liver on Sunday morning or Saturday morning because it's helping to get all of that alcohol that you drank the night before, but nobody did drugs, so I won't mention that. It helps to get all of your alcohol out of your system, and not just illegal drugs, but also legal drugs, things like antibiotics, or some people take pain medication. All of this stuff is detoxified out of your system through the liver cells, and so the liver cells have lots of these. Whenever I see a picture of these, I always think they look like the sponges on the coral reef. And the reason that they're called smooth is because they don't have any ribosomes attached to it. So very important in getting harmful chemicals out of your body. Whether the chemicals are legal or illegal is up to you. And so the critical responsibility of the smooth ER is basically making sure that your liver functions. Because once you don't have liver function, that's due to cirrhosis of the liver, or if it's due to years of taking medications, whether they're legal or illegal. The smooth endoplasmic reticulum eventually, after so much wear and tear, is going to run out of the ability to take toxins out of your system. So that's why, if any of you have ever heard of people building up a tolerance, like tolerance to alcohol, tolerance to drugs, that's because your liver is basically being run down and you're not able to get those things out of your system anymore. So if you think about the long-term use of one drug to increase your resistance to another, sometimes your body can reject drugs, or drugs may not work for you that might have worked in the past. This is very common with antibiotics, where you're trying to fight off infection, but the antibiotics aren't working. Or if you take pain medications for long periods of time, the pain medicine might not work anymore. If any of you have ever heard of people that were in chronic pain or pain management, they often need more and more and more of the drugs because the liver helps you build up a resistance to those drugs. One of the things that's dangerous about putting those types of drugs in your body is that it may cause you to be resistant to other drugs that you haven't ever tried yet or haven't ever used yet. And that's because of the harm that you can do to your smooth endoplasmic reticulum when it's trying to get those toxins out of your body. So it may be that I take antibiotics now and later another heart medication doesn't work for me. And so those things might be linked. Yep. Okay. So finally we get to the Golgi apparatus, and I feel like this is one of the most misunderstood besides the endoplasmic reticulum, because when you look at the words, it's not easy to tell exactly what it is that they do. So as the proteins are moving around from the nucleus to the outside of the cell, they're being created in the ribosomes, and then the rough endoplasmic reticulum picks them up and starts to send them to different places. Then they move through the smooth endoplasmic reticulum, and eventually they get pinched off into these little vesicles or these little pockets and sent through the Golgi apparatus. So the way that I've kind of always thought of the Golgi apparatus is like a post office. So it's packaging up the proteins to send them off to wherever they need to go. So just like you wrap up a package, take it to the post office, and it sends it where it needs to go, same thing is happening here. So the Golgi apparatus is processing and packaging those proteins and also lipids, other molecules that get exported to other locations around the cell. So it will pick them up in these flattened areas, and then it'll basically form a package around them, which is called a transport vesicle. And that vesicle just goes to wherever it needs to move throughout the cell in order to send the protein, lipid, other types of molecules to the part of the cell that they're needed in. And so here's basically a look through the endomembrane system, or the inner membrane system of the cell. So the first thing that happens, starting here in number 1, the transport vesicle buds from the smooth or the rough ER. It gets fused to the Golgi apparatus, which is right over here. And the Golgi apparatus modifies it, and so it moves throughout the Golgi apparatus. It gets modified right here. It buds off in a vesicle, and it is sent to the plasma membrane, where we talked about exocytosis, where it's exiting from the cell, or like the cell basically spits it out. It burps it up, or maybe you can think of it as cell vomiting, if that's what you want to think of.